I stopped getting my hair cut at the same salon for 12 years because the stylist kept giving me the same length for easier maintenance. Nobody told me that one specific detail in a haircut is doing more to age your face than any wrinkle ever could. And it's not what you think. Today I'm walking you through 3 haircuts that genuinely take years off a woman over 60, and 3 that are quietly working against you every time you sit in that chair. I researched the worst style and beauty mistakes and the best fixes for women over 50, so you get real results fast. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, because I cover this every single week. Part 1. 2 haircuts that take years off your face. Here's something most women never hear from their stylist. A haircut doesn't make you look younger by hiding your face. It makes you look younger by giving your face somewhere to land. Bone structure changes after 60. Softening along the jaw, and hair that just hangs there with no shape actually draws attention to that softening instead of working with it. You've probably felt this without knowing why. You look in the mirror after a trim and think, that's fine, but it's not doing anything for me. The first cut that changes this instantly is a soft, rounded bob that sits right at the jawline, with layers cut to curve slightly inward toward the chin. That inward curve is the whole trick. It creates a visual frame that lifts everything above it. Cheekbones look higher, the jaw looks more defined, and the eyes become the first thing anyone notices. This isn't a guess. Ask your stylist for this exact phrase. Graduated bob with an inward curve at the jaw, no blunt ends. Blunt, straight across ends do the opposite of what you want. They pull the eye down and flatten the whole face. The result shows up almost immediately. Women who make this switch tell me people stop commenting on their hair and start commenting on their face, their eyes, their skin. That's the sign it's working. The cut disappears and you become the focus again, which is exactly backward from what a lot of women fear happens with a shorter style. Here's a real one. A woman I heard from, 68, had worn the same shoulder-length cut since her 40s out of habit. She switched to this jaw-length graduated bob for a wedding and said 3 separate people asked if she'd done something with her skin. Nothing had changed except the shape framing it. The second youthful cut works differently but chases the same goal, lift and framing. And it's built for anyone whose hair has thinned at the crown, which is most of us by this age. This is a soft shag with face-framing pieces cut around the cheekbones, and volume built specifically at the crown through the cut itself, not the styling. The magic phrase for your stylist here is point cut layers through the crown for lift, face-framing pieces starting at cheekbone height. Point cutting, where the ends are snipped at an angle rather than straight across, is what gives each layer texture and lift instead of weight. What changes here is proportion. Fine, thinning hair that lies flat against the scalp makes the whole head look smaller in relation to the face, and that imbalance reads as tired, even when nothing else is wrong. Lift at the crown corrects that balance in seconds, before a single product touches the hair. Women describe it as the difference between hair that's just there, and hair that has a shape you can actually see from across a room. The swap to hold on to here. Trade flat, weighted down layers cut straight across for point cut layers with real crown lift and face framing pieces. That one change in how the ends are cut, not the length, is what separates hair that ages you from hair that doesn't. Now here's the flip side nobody wants to hear, because there's a cut just as common as these 2 that's doing real damage every single time you sit down for a trim. Part 2. The cut that's secretly aging you. Stylists have a quiet name for this one behind the chair. They call it the safe cut. And it's the one they give you when you say just take a little off, keep it easy. It's a blunt, one-length cut that falls straight past the shoulders with no layering at all. It feels safe because it's familiar. And that's exactly the problem. Familiar isn't the same as flattering. And this particular shape has been quietly working against most women over 60 for years without anyone saying so out loud. Here's why it ages you specifically, not hair in general. Skin naturally loses density and elasticity along the jaw and neck as we age. That's just biology, nothing wrong with it. But a heavy one-length cut with no movement adds visual weight right at that exact spot, dragging the eye downward and pulling attention straight to the area most of us are least excited to have attention pulled to. It's not that the cut looks bad on its own. It's that it's working against your actual face instead of for it. The fix isn't cutting it all off, and that's the part that surprises people. You can keep the length. What needs to change is the internal structure. Ask for long layers starting at the cheekbone with texturized ends, which removes weight from the bottom 2/3 while keeping everything above the shoulders untouched. Texturizing means the stylist thins strategic sections with thinning shears or a razor, so the hair moves instead of hanging like a curtain. The result is immediate and visible the moment you walk out of the salon. Hair that used to sit like a solid block starts moving when you turn your head. It catches light differently. And because the weight is gone from around the jaw and neck, that area softens instead of getting dragged on. One woman told me her daughter asked if she'd lost weight in her face. She hadn't. She just removed 11 inches of dead weight sitting exactly where it shouldn't have been. There's a reason this keeps happening too. Stylists default to the safe cut because it requires the least conversation. No client ever complains about just a trim. But you're allowed to ask for more than easy. You're allowed to ask for a cut that's actually doing something for you. The swap, plainly blunt one-length hair with heavy ends becomes long layers from the cheekbone down with texturized, thinned ends. Same length if you want it. Completely different effect on your face. I almost didn't include the next one, because it's the cut most women think is their safest option of all. And I need to tell you why it isn't. Part 3. The safe shortcut that backfires and the one that actually works. Most women assume that going shorter automatically means going younger. It doesn't, and this is where a lot of good intentions go sideways. The specific cut I mean is a very short, uniform pixie, clipped to the same length all over with no variation in texture anywhere on the head. It reads as tidy. It reads as low maintenance. What it doesn't do is give your face any shape to play off, and that uniformity is exactly what makes it feel more aging than the length itself ever could. The issue is texture, or the total lack of it. When every strand is the same length, there's nothing to catch light, nothing to create shadow or movement near the face, and the eye has nowhere natural to travel. It can end up reading as severe rather than sharp, especially paired with skin that's already softened with age. The harshness of the cut and the softness of the face fight each other instead of working together. Now here's the cut that gets it right, and it's still short, so if you love short hair, you're not being told to grow it out. This is a textured pixie with longer pieces left through the crown and a soft, side-swept fringe grazing the brow bone. The phrase to bring to your stylist is textured pixie, longer through the crown, disconnected fringe swept to the side. Disconnected means the fringe is cut separately from the rest, so it has its own movement instead of blending flat into the sides. What this version does that the uniform pixie can't is create a soft diagonal line across the face, from the longer crown pieces down through the swept fringe. That diagonal is doing quiet, constant work. It draws the eye up and across instead of straight down, which visually lifts the whole face without a single thing touching the skin itself. The change in how people respond is almost funny, honestly. Women who switch from the uniform buzz-like pixie to this textured version stop hearing, "That's brave," and start hearing, "That's chic." Those are two very different compliments, and only one of them is actually a compliment. Here's the swap side by side. Uniform, same length pixie with no texture anywhere becomes a textured pixie with crown length and a disconnected side-swept fringe. Both are short. Only one is quietly aging you. There's one more cut on the avoid list, and it's the one I get the most messages about, because it doesn't even feel like a style choice most of the time. It feels like something that just happened. Part 4. The cut that just happens and why it's the most aging of all. This last one isn't really a haircut at all. It's the absence of one. It's what happens when a woman keeps trimming a half-inch every few months to maintain length, without ever actually restyling, sometimes for years at a stretch. The result is a shape that was never designed. It just accumulated, and it's more common after 60 than almost any other single style mistake, because life gets busy and the salon chair becomes about maintenance instead of intention. Here's why this drifting shape ages you more than almost anything else on this list. Hair that was cut for a face you had a decade ago doesn't account for the subtle changes that have happened since: slightly softer jawline, slightly different volume at the crown, maybe a bit more fine texture than before. The cut hasn't adjusted. So even though nothing dramatic happened, the shape and the face have quietly drifted out of sync with each other. And that mismatch reads as older than either one actually is on its own. The fix starts with a single sentence to bring into your next appointment, and it changes the entire conversation. Say this exactly. I'd like a fresh consultation, not just a trim, based on my face shape today. That sentence signals to a stylist that you're not there for maintenance, you're there for an actual reassessment, and most good stylists respond to that immediately with real attention instead of habit. From there, the specific correction almost always involves reintroducing layers around the face and reestablishing a clear line at the perimeter, whatever length you choose to keep. It's less about a single named cut and more about breaking the habit of drift altogether, treating every visit as a chance to check whether the shape still matches you, not just whether the ends look neat. The result of this shift isn't really about the haircut itself, it's about the habit behind it. Women who start treating each visit as a reassessment instead of a touch-up tend to say the same thing, that they finally feel like their hair belongs to the person they are now, not the person they were when they first started that trim schedule. Last swap of the day. Drifting, undefined length with no real shape becomes an intentional, reassessed cut with fresh layering and a defined perimeter, chosen for your face as it looks today, not 5 years ago. You now know exactly which 3 cuts genuinely take years off your face: the jaw-length curved bob, the lifted face-framing shag, and the textured crown-length pixie, and which 3 quietly work against you no matter how safe they feel. That's more than most women learn from an entire year of salon visits. Tell me in the comments, which of these 6 were you doing without even realizing it? Next week I'm covering the exact words to say in the chair so your stylist actually gives you what you're asking for, instead of what's fastest. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.